It's time for another Top 20, Last 20. Our look at the top 20 NBA players over the last 20 years. Here's our criteria: winning, awards, star power, and influence. Top 20, Last 20. Here we go. It's not easy to have influence tucked in the Pacific Northwest, but Damian Lillard is number 20. The second player in NBA history to have two series-clinching buzzer beaters, Michael Jordan is the other. Over the last 20 years, only 8 players on this list have averaged more points per game. A shoe line, a music career, anybody who's just known by one name also makes the list. Dame at 20. Number 19, Jason Kidd. On a short list with Magic Johnson as one of the great passers in league history. A 10-time All-Star, although only 6 fit into our 20-year criteria. 3 NBA Finals, including leading the Mavs along with Dirk Nowitzki to a shocking win over Miami. Jason Kidd at number 19. At number 18, James Harden. He doesn't give you much in terms of leadership or defense, but he's one of the great pure scorers in the last 20 years. In fact, he has the second most threes made in that time. An MVP and a 10-time All-Star. To illustrate how prolific James Harden is, the NBA recently changed a rule to hinder Harden's number one offensive move. James Harden at 18. Number 17, Steve Nash. Nash won 2 MVPs, an 8-time All-Star, and nobody's averaged more assists over the last 20 years on this list than Steve Nash. Those Phoenix run-and-gun teams set the table for the Golden State Warriors. They were the Microsoft to the Warriors being Apple. He makes our list at number 17. Coming in at 16, Draymond Green. 3 titles, 4 times an NBA All-Star, including a Defensive Player of the Year. Nobody currently in the NBA is a greater example of basketball being more than just points than Green. A catalyst for years with the Warriors in, before, during, and after their dynasty. It should also be noted, he hosts the greatest sports podcast in America on my network. Draymond at 16. Coming in at 15, Dirk Nowitzki, who scored more points than any international player ever in the NBA. He also led perhaps the greatest upset in the last 20 years in the NBA Finals. That 2011 Finals run included a sweep of the defending champion Lakers, beating Oklahoma City with Harden, KD, and Westbrook, and then shocking LeBron, Wade, and Bosh in the finals. A 14-time All-Star. At number 15, the always well-liked Dirk Nowitzki. At number 14, if you loved hoops, you loved Allen Iverson. A reminder, though, his MVP was out of our 20-year window. That's why he's a couple of spots lower. But he still remains iconic. 2-time scoring champ, 2-time steals champ. He was hyper-aggressive, attitude and toughness. When you've been out of the league for over a decade and people still reference one of your press conferences, you make the list. Number 13, Paul Pierce, who I consider the most underrated NBA player of the last 2 decades. Using the wheelchair was the Willis Reed moment of his era. He was a 1-time champ and a 1-time Finals MVP where he went toe-to-toe and out-dueled Kobe Bryant. Over the last 20 years, only 8 men have scored more points on this list. Paul Pierce at 13. Number 12, he can drive us crazy, but while he's doing it, he'll drive around you and score. It's Kyrie Irving, who made one of the biggest shots in NBA history and certainly in the last 20 years. That was 2016 against the Warriors in Game 7. He's also perhaps the best small closer either hand in league history. A 7-time All-Star and an NBA champ, the often infuriating Kyrie Irving at 12. At 11, Kawhi Leonard. Okay, he doesn't talk much, or at all. But is there a better get a basket, get a stop guy in the last several years? 2 championships and 2 finals MVPs. He would be higher on the list if he just simply played more games. He also has something I didn't know before making this list. He has the highest winning percentage of every great player over the last 20 years. Soft-spoken and rarely speaking Kawhi Leonard at 11. At number 10, Chris Paul. What? You didn't think he'd make my top 10? A 12-time All-Star and the best pure point guard in some time, he's won everywhere he's played. The consummate pro. He won in New Orleans, Clippers, Rockets, Suns, all setting franchise records. Old school tough and new school smart. He's so famous, his alter ego is also famous. Cliff Paul. Chris Paul, my guy at 10. At number 9, Giannis. Simply put, he's so great, he missed the first 11 years of our timeline and still makes it. A champ and a finals MVP, his 50 points to win the title last year is the most ever in a closeout final game in league history. Giannis was able to bring a championship to small market Milwaukee. The last player to do that, the great Lou Alcindor. Currently in the league, he is usually the best offensive closer and best defensive player in the game. Giannis's body and game are completely unique. He's our new LeBron. Number 8, Kevin Garnett. The only thing better than one-name players are initial players. Like Damian Lillard, it's hard to be a superstar in Minnesota. Kevin was an NBA champ with the Celtics, a one-time MVP, and also a Defensive Player of the Year. Not only an 11-time All-Star, but 7 times an All-Defensive Player. He was intimidating, a trash talker, a shutdown defender, a get-a-basket guy. KG was the kind of personality you could throw a team on his shoulders. It's what the Celtics did, and it paid dividends. KG at 8. Number 7, just ahead of KG, is Tim Duncan. The resume of a champion, the personality of an accountant. He single-handedly can make an NBA Finals boring, but what a monster right out of college. Duncan, like KG, could dominate the boards. He was a 12-time All-Star, a 5-time first-team All-Defensive player. And over the last 20 years, only one other player had a higher winning percentage. He was at the beginning, middle, and end of the Spurs dynasty, the Hall of Famer Tim Duncan at 7. At 6, Dwayne Wade. Has there ever been a player that's more popular in a single city than D-Wade? Dwayne was a 3-time champ and a 1-time Finals MVP. Only 6'4", Wade had the physicality and presence of a much bigger player. Over 20 years, he made 13 All-Star teams. He leads Miami in virtually every crucial category in franchise history. He also had the ability to recruit stars. They respected him so much. From Shaq to LeBron. D-Wade at 6. Number 5, the incredibly gifted Kevin Durant. A unique and sometimes sensitive personality, he is an all-time shot maker. I believe he's one of the only players ever that would beat Michael Jordan in a game of one-on-one. KD was a 2-time NBA champ, a 2-time Finals MVP, and a 1-time MVP. The 2017 Warriors team was arguably the best of the last 20 years. He's averaged over 27 points over the last 2 decades, the highest average on this list. And you always feel like if he wanted to, he could score even more. Kevin Durant at 5. Number 4, Shaq. You see him now is a funny TV personality. He was no joke when he played. An unstoppable force. A 2-time champ. A Finals MVP. The Kobe Shaq dynasty was an all-timer. He does now more endorsements than any living active or inactive player. A Hall of Famer and a jersey retired with both the Lakers and the Heat. Has there ever been a more physically dominant player than Shaquille O'Neal? I don't think so. Shaq, high on the list at number 4. Number 3, he changed the game at every level. Steph Curry. AAU, high school, college, pros. Shots you would have been benched for, you take now because of Steph Curry. 3 rings, multiple-time MVP. In fact, the only unanimous MVP in league history. An argument to be made. Ball handling and shooting, he's the best we've ever had. He's also a selfless leader, an incredibly high basketball IQ, and has led a dynasty in the last decade. Steph Curry, one of my faves at 3. At number 2, the closest thing we've ever seen to Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. 3 rings with 2 different great centers. He was a multiple-time finals MVP, 8-time all-defense, 2-time scoring champ. Kobe made all-NBA first team 11 times. He was even more artistic than Jordan. Each time down the floor, one of the most creative shot makers in league history held you captive. So dominant in all-star games, the NBA named the MVP of that game after Kobe. Like Jordan, he was corporate but cool, chill but dynamic, everything you needed him to be in the biggest moments. And in typical Kobe fashion, his last game, he dropped 60. Always a flair for the dramatic. When you close your eyes and think of Kobe Bryant, it's one of the coolest games and creative of all time. Truly an artist. The legend Kobe Bryant at number 2. And number 1, is there any question? It's LeBron James. LeBron has 4 MVPs, 4 NBA titles, and 4 finals MVPs, 18 All-Star appearances over the last 2 decades. The most points combined between regular season and the playoffs. The Swiss Army knife of my life in pro basketball. Ball handling, scoring, defense, leadership, vertical game, horizontal game. Nobody's ever been quite like LeBron. When LeBron held the decision, it was controversial, but it empowered players and mobility, and the league and its stars have never looked back. More than ever, players have a say in their careers, and they can thank the king for that. Every 10 to 20 years, a player will come into the NBA, and there's nobody else you can compare him to. Arguably the greatest player and most versatile player in the history of this sport on our planet. LeBron James, the king, at number 1. There it is, our top 20 NBA stars of the last 20 years. Make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss our next Top 20 Last 20.